Good afternoon and welcome to our TPEA Lunch and Learn. It is Friday. It is Friday before spring break for most of everyone in Texas. So thank you for joining us today. As you are joining us, just a couple of quick reminders. We have all participants in a listen only mode. And what that means is you're not going to have the Brady Bunch look like you may have seen on some other Zooms or on Teams meetings, but that only panelists and our special guests and co-hosts will be joining us today. We're going to do things a little bit differently today based on some previous experience we've had when we're talking about the Texas Saver Plan. TPA is very excited about bringing this activity, this comments about this particular program back because we had such a good response last time. We're going to ask for those of you, we asked many of you beforehand when you registered to submit some questions in advance, and we're going to address those questions as well. If you have additional questions based on comments that Jennifer has mentioned or Ray or Ann have mentioned as well, I'm going to ask you this time not to put them in the chat portion, to put them in Q&A. What that allows us to do is to specifically address your question, and it allows us to record those in a different manner so that we can get them back to you quicker later in the future whenever we consolidate all the questions together. So let's go ahead and get rolling here today. We're joined by several different individuals, but just a real quick reminder of what TPEA does on your behalf. The Texas Public Employees Association has been around for now over 75 years, longer than ERS. They are a nonpartisan organization designed to help state employees and retirees protect their pension plan, maximize any future pay increases, cost of living increases, help improve the working conditions and the benefit contributions that the state provides, and then give you access to educational resources like the ones we're doing today, give you access to benefits and things through AMBA as well as the discounts through the TPEA, promote a connection between like-minded members. And I want to show with you what TPEA is now doing all across the state now that we're kind of coming out of COVID, and address those things. But really TPEA is there to support you. First and foremost, thank you for what you're doing. As a state employee or a retiree from the state, thank you for what you continue to do on behalf of all us as Texans all across the state. So Ray Amell and Ann Bishop. Ann Bishop is our executive director. Ray Amell is our legislative liaison with TPEA. Ray, why don't you share with us a little bit about how TPEA is getting back out across the state and some opportunities to meet with members all across the state.
Thank you, John. Hi, everybody. And I never want to neglect to tell you how much we appreciate you, state employees and retirees, for all you've done for the state of Texas. And we've done that amid freezes and floods, and especially the pandemic. So thank you very much. We also have been trying to show appreciation to state employees and retirees across the state. One recently, this past week, we did was a crawfish boil. You see a picture there of some of the folks at the event, and it was well attended, and John was there too. We just wanted to show folks that how much we do appreciate them. State employees are so often don't get the attention and notice and respect that they very much deserve. And we have some other events. We will be in Gatesville March 18th. We'll be meeting with several wardens, that is prison wardens, not game wardens. And we will be stopping in at state agency offices and trying to say hi to folks. We will be also doing appreciation events in Huntsville for state employees in that area on April 6th and 7th. We'll be in San Antonio. You see that we'll be at Grady's, that's retirees event, but that afternoon, later that afternoon, we will also have a combined sort of a reception honoring state employees and retirees later that afternoon in San Antonio. So those are just some of the events we have in mind. We're also trying to get to Lufkin fairly soon, and we have some other venues we're working on. But if you know of an event or a meeting that would allow us to come and just say hi to folks, please let us know at TPEA. Please let us know, and we will be sending someone. Thank you very much for all you do. And I do want to mention one legislative thing. There are some interim committee charges that just came out. They just came out yesterday on the House side. On the House of Representatives, Speaker of the House has commissioned several committee studies, and on the issues affecting state employees, there are very limited directly applicable studies. One is to study the actuarial condition of ERS and TRS. That's assigned to the Pension Investment Committee. There is also a committee that's going to be a select committee on health care, and that may affect indirectly some of what ERS does on the healthcare side. We think that there's not any noticeable problem being created there, or situation we need to be concerned about. Additionally, I wanted to mention John's from the Conroe area, and a state representative from his area, Will Metcalf, has just been named the chair of a major committee, the State Affairs Committee in the House. And he's also chair of the House Administration Committee. So his role has really been elevated. We'll be visiting with him. That committee takes on a whole gamut of legislation. Lots of bills end up in state affairs. So on that note, John, I'll move on to the next slide or next subject.
All right. Thank you, Ray. Again, if you are in a state agency and you know of events that are coming up, or you want to have someone from TPEA come out to your office and to your department, please contact the office, ask for Ray. We can take care of getting that set up, and would love to see you out there as well. So,
and if I'm not available, you can ask for Gina Standard.
Gina Standard, membership coordinator as well in the agency there. The association can take care of you. Just a quick reminder, at TPEA, we want more members because we want to provide you more benefits. We want to provide you more services. We want to take care of our state employees. If you're an active state employee, it's $7.50 a month. For a retiree or for an associate member, someone who's not necessarily associated with the state but still wants to participate, it's $2.50 a month for all of the things that you saw before, plus the activities, the events, the communication, the advocacy, innumerable things that you get with your membership with TPEA. So let's continue to grow and continue to bring more members in here today. But today we're going to talk about, in our Lunch and Learn session, what Texas Saver is. Understand what it is, why it's so important to save for your retirement, even if you're in retirement, what your opportunities are out there, and why saving beyond just your pension and Social Security is so important. We have our special guest, Jennifer Preston, with us today, and I'll introduce her in just a moment to talk about how Texas Saver works, how to maximize it. We're going to answer some of your top questions, and then Ann Bishop is going to wrap it up with some commentary on just some tips that she's seen over her career at the state and some questions that she's seen in the past at her time at ERS as well. So let me go ahead and introduce today to you Jennifer Preston. And the reason we have Jennifer Preston on here, and I'll tell you a little bit about her background in just a moment, is because at TPEA, two things that we never want to hear retirees tell us: I wish I would have known something sooner, or I had to work longer because something unexpected happened that I wasn't prepared for. And so that this Texas Saver conversation, wrapped in the whole conversation about preparing for retirement or living in your retirement years, is why we have Jennifer on here. She's one of our favorite guests that we have. And many retirees tell us, especially when we go to those retiree luncheons all across the state, they say, they're asking, how long do you think I'm going to live during retirement? Or what's the impact of inflation or RMDs on my retirement? And will my medical costs change? Things like that, how to prepare for those things. That's why we have this conversation today. That's why we have Jennifer on here. So Jennifer Preston is one of the retirement plan advisors with the Texas Saver plan, the 401k 457 plan that you have. She covers the Austin and Central Texas area. So most of our participants on this call are usually in the Austin, Central Texas area. And this is your representative. Jennifer is a certified financial planner, which is years and years of constant continuing education, exhaustive testing. So she has the skins on the wall, for lack of a better term, that says that she's taken the due diligence to make sure that you're in good hands and protected out there. She's got over 20 years of experience in the industry. She's a graduate of Wright State in Dayton, Ohio. And her role, she meets with state employees that are active as well as retirees to talk about their Texas Saver accounts, doing reviews, planning, giving education, and she hosts webinars and group presentations all across the state on behalf of the Texas Saver program. So Jennifer, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We look forward to the conversation today, as well as some of the questions that were pre-submitted. So go ahead and tell us a little about yourself, and then let's get started.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me. A little bit about myself. Well, as you heard, I'm from Dayton, Ohio originally, and my background there is, I come from a very blue collar family. All my family worked in factories, and really growing up, I never heard anybody talk about saving for retirement or saving for anything really. People were just living paycheck to paycheck. And when I was first going to college, I was working at a bank as a teller, and I would see, people come in and deposit money, and I'd see, oh, these people have money. And then people would be talking about vacations. Oh, people plan for vacations. And it really hit me at that moment, just how I wanted to help people like my family that really weren't in the situation where they knew about saving, knew about planning. And so that's how I got into the industry. And I really found the right place to be, I think, working on the state of Texas plan, because I'm able to help people, usual jobs that are financial advisors or CFPs. You're working, and it's mainly working with high net worth individuals. They need help as well. But that wasn't, kind of why I went into the industry. So I really enjoy working with everybody that I've worked with the state of Texas. And so that's kind of my passion.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Just a real quick reminder before Jennifer goes through her presentation and conversation, all of these financial conversations are a very high level. They're not designed to be specific financial advice for you in your individual situation. That's why Texas Saver, Empower Texas, and people like Jennifer are there for you. We're going to share you with their contact information at the very end of the conversation today for your specific geography in the state, so that you can understand who you can go to. So just kind of level set there to make sure that what we take away and discuss today is generic in nature. If you want to talk specifically about it, Jennifer will give you contact information as we go forward. Is that enough of a disclaimer, Jennifer?
That was pretty good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. You taught me well. So go ahead.
All right. Well, the first slide here, we're just talking about the three-legged stool analogy that ERS uses quite often. And it's talking about thinking about your sources of income in retirement. And how, if you wanted a solid foundation for retirement income, you just like if you were sitting on a stool, with one leg or even two legs, you may be wobbly. So really having that, at least a third leg of your stool, helps you keep solid, helps fill in some of the income gaps that you may experience. So the main source of income for you as a state employee or state retiree is your ERS retirement program. That replaces your income in retirement based on how many years you had worked for the state, paying into the ERS retirement program, and what your final average salary was. Social Security retirement benefits is something that you've paid into as well. And that is a whole another conversation. It's a long formula for how they actually determine how much you're going to receive. The earliest you can start receiving that is at age 62, but that's seen as an early draw on it. And there's kind of a reduction or a penalty for taking it at 62. Full Social Security age for Social Security purposes is either age 66, depending on what year you were born. And then it gets into month fractions like 66 and 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. Again, just depending on what year you were born. If you were born 1960 or later, full Social Security age is 67. So keeping that in mind, as far as when to retire, how that will impact your Social Security retirement benefits, when to start taking Social Security. It's a really complicated thing, and it should be something that you really spend a lot of time thinking about. Don't just take it because it's not available at 62 if you're not needing it at 62. And again, I could go on and on about that, but let me move on to the Texa Saver program. The Texa Saver program, 401k and 457 program, is a way for people who are currently an active employee of the state of Texas can contribute to. If you are a retiree, hopefully you contributed to it and still have it available to you. But contributions have to come from paycheck deduction, and it's an IRS rule. It's an employer-sponsored plan. IRS lets there be higher contributions because they know where that money is coming from. They know it's coming directly from earned income. So with these two programs, it gives you an ability to save additional for retirement. And that is important for you. Based on the next slide, you'll see a little example of that. So we have an example here of starting on the far left side, beginning your career. While you're working, you have your salary, you have your income, and typically you have some cost of living adjustments that you are given, and hopefully some promotions or increases into your job position. And over time, that is built up. When you retire from the state, in this example, we have a person that is retiring before full Social Security age. And again, in this example, the person has worked approximately a little over 21 years. So their ERS retirement is replacing about 50% of the income that they had while they were working. With the ERS retirement, there is not guaranteed cost of living adjustments and none that are promised or foreseen in the future. So we represent that income as just a flat dollar amount. It's not going to have any increases to it. But as we know, things continue to increase in cost, especially food and going to the grocery store, gasoline right now. So things increase, but your ERS retirement is going to stay the same. So if you are retiring before full Social Security age, you may need additional sources of income to fill in that income gap. So it's represented here in red, your retirement income gap. Moving over to full Social Security age, now Social Security does provide some cost of living adjustments, and that's a good thing. Also, the higher that Social Security amount when you begin it is going to impact how much your cost of living adjustments are going to be from Social Security each year. So something to take in mind. But you will still continue to have some retirement income gap just because of inflation. And so saving money through Texa Saver or in an outside IRA or an outside savings account, those are all things that are meant to help supplement your income in retirement and fill in that retirement income gap. And with the Texa Saver program, just real high level, whether it's the 401k or the 457, you have the ability to save money directly from your paycheck. And you can determine if you are paying your taxes on that earned income, either delaying it till when you're in retirement or paying the taxes right then when you earn it. So a pre-tax traditional contribution is where you're delaying paying taxes on that income until you are in retirement and drawing the money out of it. An after-tax, commonly referred to as a Roth contribution. A little bit of trivia, it's called Roth because the senator, I think it was in Connecticut, he thought up the idea and they named it after him. So the Roth contribution is where you're paying your taxes, federal taxes on your income in the year you make it. You are contributing it and hopefully that investment is growing. And when you take it out, as long as it's a qualified distribution, you will not pay tax on the earnings. So we'll get more into that in a few slides, but just wanted to go over that. Again, it is automatic payroll deduction. Saving in the Texa Saver program, depending on your household income, may also qualify you for additional federal tax credit called a saver's tax credit. Again, you have to be in lower income levels to qualify for that, but that may be something that you can look into. Texa Saver program, you can manage your account online. Online is the easiest way. Also, get the app, Empower app, and you can manage it right from your phone, and also by phone. And if you have your Texas Saver program and you have a balance in the account, you can roll over, doing a direct transfer from previous employers' 401ks or 457B programs or traditional IRAs. And the Texas Saver program gives you access to investment advice. And also you can use your Texas Saver program to purchase service credit from ERS. You can also elect to contribute or defer any unused vacation time when you are actually retiring. You'll be given that option. And once you're in retirement or no longer a state employee, you can still keep your Texas Saver account there, and you can set up flexible distribution options. So you can leave it here. You don't have to move it to another IRA. You don't have to roll it out. You can leave it in Texas Saver program. There's lots of flexibility, again, on taking the money out.
Hey, Jennifer, this is Ann. I just want to reinforce something that you said on this slide. And one of them is you can roll over previous IRAs, 401ks, 457 accounts to Texas Saver. So it's a two-way street. If you have little accounts in other banks or say Fidelity or Schwab or something like that, you don't have to wait till retirement to roll it over. You can roll it over before retirement.
Right, before or after, as long as you have that account balance. Like if you retired and no longer had account balance, you couldn't roll it in. So I always encourage people not to roll all of their money out of the Texas Saver program, because they may want to come back into the Texas Saver program by rolling it back in.
Right. The other comment I had is really related to your previous slide, and I apologize, I didn't pull it up fast enough, but people don't realize when they turn 65 that they are going to have to start paying the Medicare Part B premium. And the Medicare Part B premium ranges, it's a sliding scale based on income, and it starts at $170 a month. So if you make less than $91,000 or less, couple years before you turn 65 and there's a look back, then you're at a very minimum going to pay $170.10. The maximum, and I don't think any of us get to the maximum, but is $578.30. And that's quite a shock to people, because the state has always paid the full cost of your premiums for your health care. And I just wanted to reinforce that while you were talking about the benefit of Texas Saver is to have money to pay those premiums when your retirement is not going up. It's a fixed amount of retirement.
Good point. Yes, because and just doing retirement planning and kind of laying out, well, you know what you need in month one of retirement, because it's typically what you need right then. But thinking down the road, what additional costs are going to come up once you are 65 or older, just due to, like you said, Medicare Part B, to out-of-pocket upfront premiums or deductibles that you may have to cover. And I know it's difficult to think of all those things, and it's kind of probably, gives a little bit of anxiety, but know that resources are out there for you, and the reps on the Texas Saver program are here to help you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ann.
And since the Texas Saver program does have a 401k program and a 457 program, I think it's important to spend a moment just kind of talking about the two programs. They're very similar in most ways, just the way the ERS has operated them. They're all under the record keeper currently, Empower Retirement. And it is ability for you to save for retirement. So let me talk about things that are similar, and then I'll talk about things that are different. The similar things is that you are able to elect to contribute to either program. Again, it has to come right from your paycheck. You contribute, either elect a percentage of your salary or elect a dollar amount. And you can do that for either plan now. And on either plan, you can also do before tax contributions or do after tax Roth contributions to either plan. I've been hearing a lot lately of people think you can only do Roth to the 457, and I'm not sure exactly why people got that assumption. I don't know if it used to be that way or what, but you can do before tax, after tax, or both. You can say, you know, I'm going to contribute $200 a month. I want 100 of it to be before tax contributions, 100 to be Roth contributions. They're all still under the 401k or the 457, not two different 401k plans, not a before tax or a Roth. It's all one 401k. It's just we're record keeping how the contributions came in. With the 401k program, when IRS designed it, IRS said, okay, we want to encourage people to save for retirement. We want to discourage people from using the money before retirement, which they deem to be age 59 and a half, unless they meet an exception to that rule. So with that 10% penalty tax, it is something that if you separated service from that employer, moved jobs, were under 59 and a half, had the ability to tap into it, IRS is trying to discourage people from it. With the 457 program, it's a governmental 457B program. It's only available for state, city, and county entities. Most of, like City of Austin only has a 457 program. Travis County only has a 457 program. But State of Texas had the 401k already before a certain year, I forget what year. So they're grandfathered in where they can still have it. So they have two plans available. And with the 457 program, if a person is set to retire before 59 and a half, once they've separated service, and actually they don't even have to be retired, once they separate service, no matter what their age is, they can take money out of the 457 account. They'll just pay regular taxes, but not a penalty tax. And it's called a deferred compensation plan. So you're just deferring current earnings, current compensation to later, once you're no longer an employee. So that's the biggest difference between the two is 401k has the possible 10% penalty tax for distributions before 59 and a half. 457 does not, but you cannot take money out of the 457 plan until you've separated service with the state. It's available whether you're part-time or full-time. Regular state employees can do both the 401k and the 457. Employees that are under higher education agencies, so Texas State University, A&M as an example, they only have the ability to save in the 457 program. And both programs offer people extra ways to save once they are closer to retirement. So both 401k and 457 has that age 50 and over catch-up provision. 457 has an additional one called a special 457 catch-up provision, and it is subject to eligibility and it's quite complicated. So the easiest way for me to say is to contact your representative in your area, but you have to be within 3 years of being eligible to retire under the pension program without a reduction to your pension amount. You have to at least meet that to be eligible to do that 457 catch-up. And with the 401k program and the 457, any of the money that you have in there that's before tax contributions, you can use that to purchase additional service credit or withdrawn service credit or military service credit from your Texas Saver program. You'd want it to be from before tax contributions. We do it as a direct rollover over to ERS so that they can purchase that. And it's a great way, again, for people who are wanting to purchase that. Now, with anybody who has withdrawn or wants to purchase additional TRS or Teachers Retirement Service Credit, that has to come from the 457 program. It can come from the 401k plan, but they have to be eligible for a distribution. So they have to be 59 and a half or older.
Now, Jennifer, quick question before we move on. Do they initiate that process for purchasing service credit through ERS or through you?
Through ERS,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
ERS can actually handle everything. If it's purchasing TRS service credit, they initiate with TRS, but there's certain forms that we have to help them fill out to get that money over to TRS.
Okay.
And Jennifer, I know that there's a lot of details behind the statement about the catch-up. But just in general, if you are eligible for the 457 catch-up provisions within 3 years of your retirement, then there is a significant amount that you can catch up, isn't it? Right around $41,000.
Yes, and that's perfect segue to the next slide, where we talk about, did you do that on purpose, Anne?
Yes.
You're good. You're good. You're very good.
Everybody
So-
needs a straight man.
So let's talk about the amounts that you can contribute. Now that the amounts, the minimum amount is 1% or $20 if you're electing a dollar amount for either plan. The maximum, so the normal contribution maximum for 2022 is $20,500 or up to 99% of your allowable compensation, whichever is less. The age 50 and over catch-up contribution, again, even in the year you're turning 50, which I am turning 50 this year. So I could contribute an additional $6,500. I don't have to wait till after my birthday. I can do it at the beginning of the calendar year if I'm turning 50 in this year. And so that's $27,000 that a person could contribute. Most people can hardly afford to do that much, but it is something that you're able to do. Now with that, as you're asking Anne about the special 457 catch-up provision, it gives the people the ability, if they have underutilized contributions from prior years. So let's say I was a state employee for 20 years and I didn't even open my 457 account, let's say, and I never, or even if I did, I never contributed up to the maximum contribution each year. So that basically, they look back at every year I've worked for the state, how much I could have contributed, meaning the maximum, versus how much I actually contributed. And they'll add up all the underutilized amounts just to see if I'd be able to do up to the maximum special 457 catch-up, which is twice the normal contribution limit. So for 2022, 20,500, my contribution limit I could have done anyways. I could do an additional 20,500 if I have that underutilized contribution. So like you said, Anne, that's $41,000 a person could defer 3 consecutive years prior to the year that either they're first eligible when they meet that rule of 80 without a reduction to the pension amount, or anytime after up to age 70. So it's IRS rules that I feel like it's ageism, but you have to do it before you're 70.
And you could still contribute, and I know we don't make this much money, but theoretically you could still then contribute at $20,500 to your 401k. And ultimately, if you have other sources of income and you can put up to $61,000 away.
Right. I mean, actually in the 401k, if a person's 50 or over, they can on the 401k still go up to the 27. So the 20,500 plus the 6,500 to 27 into the 401k, and the 41, again, if they're eligible for that maximum, into the 457. And where we see people utilizing that the most is when they are retiring, if they have quite a bit of unused vacation, that if they're in group 1 for ERS retirement groups, if they're going to be paid out from their agency for their unused vacation, and they have, again, they've just been accumulating lots of hours over the years, that's where we see people really utilizing that special 457 catch up to get that money in so that they're deferring taxes. That would be a big hit in 1 year to get all that unused vacation paid out to them. So they're contributing it under this catch up provision, and then waiting till at least the following year, if not further out, to start taking distributions.
Thank you.
All right, and I think I went everything on this slide. So let's talk a little bit more about before tax contributions versus after tax contributions. And then let's just kind of take it by each row. So just talking about the tax consequences of these different types of contributions. So if you're putting money into from your paycheck into the pre-tax traditional, you are basically not paying tax on that earned income, and it's going into that account. It is subject to tax on that contribution when you are taking money out. And any earnings from those contributions, you're also paying taxes on when you're taking it out. If you roll money over from traditional IRA into your before tax 401k, you are not paying taxes on that direct rollover either. So that's what the last row is addressing. Now let's move over to the Roth. I have my contribution going in, but I am paying it. It's included in my taxable income. So there's no tax reduction for me making that contribution. I've already paid my tax on it. But I will not have to pay taxes on that contribution when I take it out, because I already did. And if the distribution is a qualified Roth distribution, I will not have to pay tax on any of the earnings. So what is a qualified Roth distribution? It is something that is at least 5 years since that first contribution. And the person has to be 59 and a half or older when they take it out. So if I contributed money 5 years ago into the after-tax Roth contribution, and now I'm in retirement and I want to pull money out, and I'm already 59 and a half or older, I do not have to pay tax on the distribution. It's not included in my taxable income, which could be really nice for people not to have additional money as taxable income in retirement. If you take any money, even let's say you've done before tax contributions into your Texa Saver account, and you want to, what we call, do a in-plan Roth conversion, then you're paying your taxes on that amount you're converting in that year. But as long as that conversion amount is a qualified Roth distribution, you will not have to pay tax on any earnings. So we've been getting a lot of questions about that, and I think we have a slide that's going to pop up, and we're going to go over that in a little bit more detail.
I do have a question real quickly, Jennifer, about the Roth and the 5-year setup period and all that. We probably have some folks on this call that have set up a Roth or did some deposits into it several years ago, and then it's been dormant, and then they get close to retirement and they want to put some more into it. How does the distribution, does it matter when it was put in, or how does that work?
It is at least 5 years since the first Roth contribution. So let's say 10 years ago you made your first one and then you didn't make any more. Well, at least if it's been at least, and then you make another one 10 years later, your 5-year window isn't per contribution, it's just from that first initial Roth.
So they could dump a lot into it near the end of retirement and then start taking out later and not have to worry about penalties or anything like that because they had one set up at least 5 years ago.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, great. Super. Thank you very much. We'll move a little bit forward here. All right, so we've got some questions here, and this is what we've done is we took all of your questions that came in beforehand and we categorized them into 4 different groups. Now, there may be a few that we didn't hit. We're going to try to touch on those whenever we send out the Q&A feature at the end. If you've got specific questions, drop them into Q&A. We've got a few at the end we're going to ask as well, but I'm going to have Jennifer address each of these different topics. And again, as we mentioned, these are generic in nature, broad, not specific to your specific situation. So let's address that elephant in the room right now, Jennifer.
Yes, the stock market, and what is it doing right now? And anybody that's on this call probably has been around for a while, right? And you have been through ups and downs in the stock market before. Since I graduated college, I remember the first one that impacted me was 2000, I think it was 2001, where the tech bubble burst or whatever, when the stock market went down because of all the overvaluated tech companies at that time. And then everybody remembers 2008, 2009 with the mortgage crisis. And that was quite scary. I mean, people still bring it up to me all the time. And then most recently in 2001 with you know, when the pandemic first occurred, not knowing what's going to happen, the stock market took quite a plunge. And if we look back at each of those times, we can think about, well, the market did go back up eventually, correct? 2008, 2009, it took a little longer than normal, but it did eventually go up. So when I talk about the stock market and the market going down and addressing that with people, I want to make sure that they are, gosh, not about to retire. And even if they are, we want to look at their investments to see if they're diversified, meaning they don't just have all their money in one type of investment, that it's spread out. And that typically is meant to help buffer any downturn. It often though is that each asset class category is going down, but not as much as, you know, it evens out, or like maybe bonds aren't going to be going down as much as US large cap stock or international stock. So having a portfolio where you're diversified is important. And also, if you are close to retirement, you really want to make sure you are not more aggressive than you can stand to be. But you don't want to go all the way conservative either, because you have to have your money growing to outpace inflation. You need your money around for 10 years down the road, for 20 years down the road, keeping up with inflation. Like in that one slide where we had that graph, where you saw that people's retirement income gap is going to continue throughout retirement. So looking at your investments, and I think this example is good for people to visualize and help maybe reduce some of their anxiety around it, is let's say that you are planning to retire in the next year or two. I tell people that any money that they may need to pay their bills, to eat, whatever, in the first 2 years of retirement, anything above what they're going to receive from their pension or from Social Security, have that in something that is not going to be subject to the ups and downs of the market. So consider that your immediate bucket. So anything that you will need in 2 years, have it in cash, have it in a high yield savings account or a money market account. This, again, something that's not subject to ups and downs of the market. Then think of anything 2 to 10 years in retirement as your intermediate bucket. Those are usually things that you can still be invested and maybe a low to moderate risk level for that money. And then anything 10 years or more is your long-term bucket. And that can stand to be more aggressive because you have time to ride ups and downs of the market before you tap into that. So hopefully that helps you kind of think through, you know, do I really need to be freaking out if I have, you know, $50,000 of cash just sitting around? And if you don't, you need to look at your investments and make adjustments if you do not have a certain percentage of your portfolio in a somewhat conservative mix. And again, this may be, you know, information that you feel overwhelmed just hearing, but it's something that the retirement plan advisors are here to help you with on the Texa Saver program and in our call center as well. Right now, we're kind of short staffed on our team out in the field, but we do have a call center that is available as well. Do you think I addressed everything there pretty well?
Like everybody's situation is so different, but basically what I hear you say is, Jennifer, is that if you need or close to retirement, or you're just in retirement and you have need for cash from your plan, from your Texa Saver plan, you may want to move a couple of years worth into something that's not as is tied into stocks or risk environment as well. So just a different allocation of what you have there, and that you and your call center team can help do that. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Super. So we hear a lot about Roths. You talked about Roths a little bit. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Talk about some of the advantages, and then everybody talks about converting Roths and doing, you know, you listen to the radio on Saturdays in any town, you're going to hear people talk about Roth conversions. What are they? Why do I need to do one? All that kind of stuff.
So with the Roth, what's the advantages of the Roth? One is that any money that you have invested in the Roth that you're not going to need for over 5 years, that you can put in something that's maybe a little bit more aggressive, and you will not have to pay the taxes on those earnings. So that can be quite substantial for people, again, who are going to be either in a higher or the same tax bracket as they are currently. And nobody knows what tax rates will be in the future. We know what tax rates are currently, and we can kind of make assumptions of what our income will be in retirement and plan that way. But it's just a way to have another avenue, kind of being a little bit more diversified on the tax standpoint. You have your ERS retirement, that's going to be subject to tax. Social Security, part of it may be subject to tax, just depending on your income level. And if you have any before tax contributions, you're drawing those are going to be subject to tax. So it'd be nice to have a bucket of money that won't be subject to tax. And that would be the Roth. So I think people don't have to move everything into Roth, but it is a great way to, again, diversify tax wise. And with the Roth conversions, again, yeah, we've been hearing a lot. We've been getting a lot of phone calls about Roth conversions. What that means is, from the standpoint of your Texas Saver account, let's say you've always put money in before tax contributions. You also have the ability to do Roth contributions, but any of the before tax money that you have, if you want to you're like, darn, I wish that would have been Roth, you can do an in-plan Roth conversion. But we have to go over that. We being the local office has to go over that with each person that calls in before we can even send them the form to convert it. And so the tax implications of it is basically whatever amount you convert, they're going to move it basically from before tax to Roth. It's seen as a taxable event, but we're not withholding taxes. So you'd get a form at the end of the year that you'll have to use to do your taxes. That's basically saying, let's, for example, convert $20,000 to Roth. That's taxable income that you not pay taxes on. You'll owe additional taxes when you do your tax return. It may push you in a higher tax bracket. All kinds of different tax consequences may come from it that we really want people to be aware of before they make that decision. But if it is a good decision, any money that you convert, you're buying into your investments at that price. And if it grows, when you take that money out, as long as it's a qualified Roth distribution, you're not paying tax on the earnings.
Jennifer, Jennifer, I don't know
Yes.
that we mentioned this, but I believe there's some hard income limits for people who might want to take advantage of Roth.
That's actually only on Roth IRAs. So
Okay.
individual retirement accounts, there's some income limitations. So if the person makes over a certain amount, they're not even able to do a Roth IRA contribution. But those income limits do not affect a person in their 401k program.
So that's an appealing feature of the Texas Saver Plan. Yeah.
Right. And any of the money that a person has put into their 401k or their 457 is Roth. When they are retired, they can also roll that out to a Roth IRA if they so need to, but it can stay in the plan. It's just unfortunate that required minimum distributions on any money that's in the 401k that are Roth, it's not treated as favorably as a Roth IRA. And again, this may be getting into too much detail, but it's something that we go over with people when they are doing the Roth contributions or doing any conversions.
Okay, so you've got people that maybe want to consider taking their pre-tax money that they're doing a conversion because the future growth is not going to be taxed at that point. You said that they're going to be taxed at the point that they take it out in that tax year. Are there penalties like a normal 401k deduction, so to speak?
So if a person's under 59 and a half and they do a conversion, there's no penalties or that would apply. So just regular taxes. And
Okay.
we don't withhold them. So they'll be taxed at whatever tax rate that they are in for that conversion.
Okay, great. Now you mentioned RMDs. Let's talk about RMDs. What is an RMD and tell us the whole skinny on the changes that have taken place.
Okay, so RMD stands for required minimum distribution. And I guess when IRS first said, okay, let's encourage people to save for retirement, let's give them some tax benefits for doing so, so that, encourage people to save. But they say, well, at some point we want to tax that income that we didn't tax before. And once they are a certain age, we think they should be in retirement and should start taking money out of that investment. So it used to always be 70 and a half was the required minimum distribution age. And if a person was not already 70 and a half by the beginning of 2020, then their required minimum distribution age was pushed back a whole year and a half from IRS. So required minimum distribution age is now 72. Again, if you were not already 70 and a half by the beginning of 2020. And so what does that mean? If you are no longer an active employee of the state and you are 72 or older, then there's just a minimum amount out that you have to take out. Now, most people are taking money out already, but for people who aren't needing to and haven't been drawing down their Texas Saver account, they'll have to at least take out a minimum each year from that point on. So from 72 on. The amount is IRS formula where they have their actuaries coming up with a distribution period, and they're just dividing the balance of their account as of December 31st, the year before, by that distribution factor to determine the amount that they need to take out within that calendar year. And with the Texa Saver program, you can set it up to where it's automatically calculated for you each year and distributed to you each year. So that way, from that point on, you don't have to worry if you've done it or not. And that's the great feature of the Texa Saver program. If you have outside IRAs, individual retirement accounts, that are going to be subject to the required minimum distribution as well, you would want to make sure that the investment company that holds that IRA, find out what they're going to do for you when you are 72. Are they going to reach out to you to make sure you're taking it, or is it up to you to reach out to them? And if you have multiple IRAs, let's say at one at the bank, one at Fidelity, one at who knows where, your Edward Jones person, whatever, you would want to do that for each one. Want to make sure that you know what they require of you. If you have money in the 401k and you have traditional IRAs, you have to take an RMD on your 401k. You have to take an RMD on your 457 based on the amount in those accounts. But your outside IRAs, you can basically add up all the IRA balances you have, and you can choose which IRA you actually draw down your RMD. So it gives you ability there just to pull it from one, but you have to pull it from your 401k and you have to pull it from your 457 based on the balances in those accounts.
Jennifer, if you are at a point where you don't need to borrow money, you're retired and you're not going to take an emergency distribution, is there an opportunity to transfer either your 401k money to the 457 or the 457 money to the 401k account so that you can consolidate accounts?
Yeah, so if you are an active employee and you're not 59 and a half yet, you would have to leave them separate. But once you are 59 and a half, you could roll the 401k into the 457. After you separate service or in retirement, you can combine them. You can move 401k into 457 or 457 into 401k at any time. So yes, that's a great point. Just one last thing to worry about, making sure that RMDs from each one.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Now, we've got a few questions in the Q&A, and the questions that we received that didn't necessarily make it on air, so to speak. We're going to follow up with a document afterwards to make sure that you have those questions answered specifically for you. But before we kind of wrap up the Q&A overall, talk to us about what they do once they retire, or if they've got outside plans, things like that, and fees such of that nature.
Yeah, so if you are about to retire, you do not have to, one, you don't have to notify us that you're retiring. We'll be notified from a data feed we get from ERS. You can leave your money in Texas Saver account. Again, you do not have to roll it out. If you're under 72, you do not have to take out any money. Once you're 72, you have to at least take out that minimum. But let's say you just want to take money out. You want to do, you want to go on vacation. In your Texa Saver account, you can just request the amount that you want to withdraw and leave the rest invested. We call that a partial withdrawal. You can also set it up where you are receiving a direct deposit into your checking account, for example. Let's say you have a balance of 100,000 and you wanted to start getting $200 a month from your Texa Saver plan, direct deposit in your checking account. You can set that up. We call that a periodic withdrawal. You can say, oh, I want to increase it to 300. We'll do that. You say, oh, I want to stop it for a while. We'll do that. So there's lots of flexibility around distributions from Texa Saver account. I always tell people though, you can tell us any amount you want to withdraw, but once the balance of your account's gone, then there'd be no more withdrawals. You'd want to do some retirement income distribution planning. Think of how much you need the money to stay invested and grow to help 10, 20 years down the road offset inflation costs. So that's something that with the Texa Saver Retirement Plan Advisors, we're here to help you with that. And we're still here to meet with you even in retirement. If you have traditional IRAs or still have an old employer's 401k or 403b or 457 out there that you just been sitting there and you don't know what to do with it, you can elect to roll it over, do a direct rollover into your Texa Saver account. You can do that before you retire. You can do that after you retire. If you have a balance in your Texa Saver account, you can roll money into your Texa Saver program. There's no fees on our standpoint for rolling money over, that there may be from wherever you're rolling it from. So we'd want to check on that. Usually I've seen distribution fee be at the most $75, but otherwise there's no fees on our end.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So tell us a little bit about the map, how to get a hold of Texa Saver. And then before we go into that, talk about the scope of what your services are, because a lot of times people confuse you with ERS. I know ERS plans and how that works. Talk about the scope of that, because we got some people on here that will say, I want to wait till 70 to start doing some stuff with Social Security and this, and how does that coordinate? So talk about the scope of what you do.
Right. So right now we are short a couple retirement plan advisors. So I always apologize to people if they've been trying to get meetings or and they see that we're booked out a month or two in advance. And it's great though that people are really taking advantage of scheduling those meetings with us. Used to be when I first started, I was fighting to try to get people to meet with me. Like I needed more meetings, but now it's great. It's great that people are taking advantage of it. I just feel bad that there's not more of us. We are looking to hire, but as just with anything right now, it's hard to find people that are wanting to move from where they are, I guess currently. It's hard to find qualified candidates. So we're out there looking, but we don't want to just pick anybody. We're looking for the right person. So right now for the state of Texas, start at the top, Antonio Rivera. He's covering a huge area of the state, from the Panhandle down El Paso, and now filling in from the South Texas area as well. And he's doing a phenomenal job. He does a lot of his meetings in person. He prefers doing in-person meetings. So, and I think he said he was booked out till June. So I guess he's doing a good job getting those meetings filled in. Makes sense, such a large area. Mike McClellan is great. If anybody's seen him do presentations, he is phenomenal. And he covers the Dallas, Fort Worth, and east of Dallas area. And I'll skip over myself. John McCabe is covering the Houston and east of Houston area. And right now, we usually have 2 representatives in Central Texas, again, since most state employees or retirees are located here. Right now, it's just me. So if you go to our website and you see our online scheduler that we have there, and you see that I'm full, click on Mike, click on John, see if they have meetings available, and I will not have my feelings hurt too much if you schedule with them. I don't want people, having to wait a month or 2 if they really need immediate help. And don't forget about the Texas Saver call center, and I don't have that number memorized, but I'll make sure that we get that out to you. Our call center, and there's long hold times there as well, I've heard. We're short staffed in our call center as well. And I think that's just a common thing all across the world probably right now. So whenever I call places, I know I'm going to be on hold, and I have my phone on speaker and I'm doing other things while I'm waiting for somebody to come on. And so all our email and our phone numbers are listed there. It's my work cell phone number under mine. Reach out to us, call, just know, again, because of being short staffed, it may be, we can't get back to you the same day. We try to, but it often may be a day or 2.
Okay. So in your conversations, the expectation being, of course, if they have a 401k or a 457 through a Texas Saver, you can kind of give them that look at what Social Security would look like and ERS pension that as well, how all that works together, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So when, and I can only speak really how I do the meetings, although it should be similar for everybody. If a person is wanting to do that kind of holistic look at retirement, looking at what their ERS retirement may be, Social Security, if they are close to retirement, let's say close being within 3 years, I typically will ask them to get information ahead of our meeting. So go into the ERS website and running their retirement estimate for the year they want to retire, and based on which retirement distribution they're going to do, standard annuity or one of the survivor payments, to get that. And also to go to the Social Security website, www.ssa.gov, because they don't mail statements anymore. They're trying to save money, good. But you have to go there and get that statement. And any outside investment accounts that a person has, we can include that in our holistic look. We can't give recommendations on those accounts, but we can at least try to project the growth of it and the income that they'll receive from it. So basically it takes all that information together, and it will say, okay, based on how much money you need to pay your bills, to eat every year in retirement, including inflation, are you in good shape? If not, it'll come back and say, we recommend that you either work longer, save more, invest differently, or all 3. And then we go over that information with you. And at the end, it's up to the person what they end up doing, of course. But if they do want help with investing, we have that Texas Saver advisor service. That is something that we can utilize and help them create that diversified portfolio that is structured to help meet their goals for retirement without taking on more risk or volatility than they need to achieve those goals. And it's often that people will need to review that every year, and maybe sometimes more often if things change in their scenario. So that's what we provide as the retirement plan advisors, is that, again, that holistic look and then giving those recommendations.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. One last question, and then we'll let you roll here. I know some folks have asked about visits to their local offices. Now with COVID and with staffing, is there anything on the horizon where we expect some out in the field visits anytime soon?
Well, as I understand it currently, the reps are able to do in-person meetings if they feel comfortable. So I think as of March 1st, all the Texas Saver staff has been, vaccinated, and we'll take precautions if necessary, or if the person feels more comfortable as wearing a mask or whatever, we will of course do that. Each advisor though we meet with so many people now virtually. And when I talk to people, they're like, we prefer virtual. So it's up to that person. We still are doing virtual or in person. There is a local office in Austin that people can come to. Right now, because of our short staff, our person that usually works in the office, she's on medical leave. We do have a temporary person in there, and we can book meetings there, but it's by appointment.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us again. We'll follow up with the Q&As for those on the call here. We're recording this. We'll put it out on the TPEA website under the members only section. So Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing with us. We appreciate that. And you've had experience at ERS for many years. You've had experience as a state retiree. Kind of give us some of the tips that you've learned and gleaned over the years to our group today.
Well, and this is really just a review of what Jennifer had said earlier. So Jennifer, thank you. I appreciate it. But she incorporated most of these things in her presentation. And that is one thing that I want to stress is as you are looking to retire and maybe you become an empty nester and your expenses aren't as great as they have been in the past, that remember you can contribute to both the 401k and the 457 plans. And if you are getting close to retirement, there is tremendous ability to do catch up, to contribute more than you normally could. Take advantage of those. The biggest way to take advantage of, in addition to setting up both accounts and contributing to both of them, is a lot of us had annual leave that we can contribute and designate it to the 457 or 401k plans. And that makes that annual leave not taxable. It is a great way to add a lot of money or some money to your 457 or 401k plan without paying taxes on it. So that's huge because you don't expect, all you think about when you're getting ready to retire, oh, I have 200 hours of annual leave, I'll get $200. And you don't think that, oh, wait a second, I need to pay taxes on it. And you're going to pay taxes on the year in which you get that money. One of the things that I know that state employees like to do, and that is retire in August to September. But remember, when you are retiring and you're going to get, depending on how much your annual leave is, you may want to play with the month that you are retiring so you don't have full salary that month or that year. For instance, if you retire in January, you'll be able to have 1 month worth of salary, but you will then have a lot of annual leave. So if you're not going to put it in the Texas Saver account, just play with when you want to retire. Also, remember that you can do before and after tax contributions. It doesn't have to be one or the other. As Jennifer said, you can do all of those things. You can do before tax and after tax, 401k, 457. And you can do in-plan Roth conversions. Now, again, you'll have to pay taxes because after all, these are tax deferred accounts. They're not tax-free accounts. So you're always going to have to pay some sort of taxes, whether it's before you contribute or after you contribute. If it's a Roth, you're paying it before. If you are a 401k and 457 regular account, then you'll pay it when that money is distributed to you. I don't think Jennifer covered this as much as I'd like to stress, but when you're thinking about your other accounts and whether rolling over your 401k 457 to something else or rolling that other account into 457 to 401k, please, please, please take a look at fees, because your Texas Saver fees are usually, and I would say almost always, less than what you'll have to pay somewhere else. ERS has done a great job negotiating fees, not only the administrator fees, but the fees with the various funds. So keep in mind that yeah, if you look at returns, maybe somebody had a 1% higher return, but then when you drill down in terms of fees, a lot of your savings may be eaten up with those fees. One of the things that we always like to talk about my friends is that Texas Saver is very flexible as well. And there's different rules for 401k and 457. But if you're still working and you have been putting money away, which we highly encourage you to do, and you need money for something, whether it's an emergency, medical expenses, some kind of other unanticipated expenses, if you're working, you can take a loan of your Texas Saver money. So don't be afraid to put money away because you think, oh, I can't get that money out if I need it. Yes, you can. There are different provisions. You can take a hardship provision. You can take a loan. So there are other options that you can visit with your Texas Saver rep about if you're concerned about that. The last but not least is take advantage of Jennifer and her team, their resources, because they are able to give advice. And that is huge. That used to not happen. And that's a very big value add. And as she said, some of her appointments are scheduled out to June. Don't wait to the last minute because they're not going to be able to fit you in, but think a little bit ahead of time, schedule an appointment. Even if it's a 5-minute appointment, it behooves you, and it's very good for your retirement to at least talk things out, even if you don't do anything different. So take advantage of all those resources. And that's really all I have to say. John.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ray. We appreciate that. Just a quick reminder, there are a lot of advantages of having TPEA and AMBA together. Help fill those gaps that you don't have from the state. You can extend your benefits also to your family as well as your parents as well. So just a quick wrap up as we finish up here today. We've gone a little bit long. We have a conversation starting on the 25th, Friday after next, about protecting your nest egg. We're going to look at the 5 key threats to your nest egg as you save, whether you're in retirement or whether you're not in retirement, address each one of those, give you some solutions, possible solutions, things like that. And folks are thinking about that as they watch the stock market go up and down, and inflation and gas prices and all that. So please, please, please tell your friends about these webinars through the TPEA. It's a great way to introduce them to TPEA and hopes that they'll become a member, so we can have a strong voice at the Capitol for pay issues, pension issues, and things like that. And we hope that we bring you lots of education as well. So again, Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it as always. Ray and Ann, thank you very much as well. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week, great weekend. And if you're on spring break next week, enjoy that. So everyone take care. We'll have this recording posted out on the TPEA website within a week or so. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.